Little over 24 hours until another Syracuse basketball game day. We're breaking it all down for you here on today's Locked On Syracuse podcast. What do we want to see out of the Orange? Again, in another non-conference game, easing your way into Battle for Atlantis. We'll dive into that question. We'll also do the prop shop as well and give you our game picks against the spread and with the total. That is coming up next.
You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on in to the Locked On Syracuse podcast. I'm Tyler Aki alongside Tim Leonard. We're here with you every single weekday, Monday through Friday, the only place to get daily Syracuse podcasts. Be sure to hit subscribe, whether you're on Apple Podcasts, whether you're on Spotify, or if you're on YouTube. We are available on YouTube as well, and we're always dropping some bonus content there for you too. So be sure to hit that subscribe button wherever you get your podcast. Thank you for making us your first listen every single day. Remember, we are free and available on all platforms. So Syracuse and Colgate. Let's dive into this matchup. This is a Colgate team, a tournament team from a season ago, and this is kind of this little stretch now for Syracuse of pretty much strictly tournament teams coming up. So they'll have their work cut out for them over these next handful of games, but they lose one of their best players from a season ago in Jordan Burns, but pretty much everyone else is back. One of the big statistics that I look at on KenPom year to year when you're trying to evaluate teams is minutes continuity. And what that basically means is the amount of minutes that are returning from a season ago, that minutes that were played last season that are coming back from a season ago. And Colgate is ranked 9th in the entire country in minutes continuity, almost 80% of their production coming back. For a little bit of a measurement here, so you can get your bearings down, the country average is about 47%. So they're almost double that at 80% right there. And I think this is going to be a solid challenge. I don't think Colgate's nearly as good. They're obviously going through a much different schedule this season. Remember, last year they only played the Patriot League opponents, so they were able to sort of beat up on some teams last season. Right now, 2-2 to start the year. They played close with NC State. They also lost by 10 to Cornell. Both of those games came on the road, too, so they have struggled away from their home court so far. But this should be a solid early season test for Syracuse and just a good way to ease yourself into the battle for Atlantis.
Right. I think it's a little bit better Colgate team than we have seen in the past. And by the way, I do like that minutes continuity stat, just looking at Syracuse, because you made me think of it. They're 272 in minutes continuity. I don't think it means a ton, but maybe someone out there.
I think it matters for the mid-majors a lot more than the Power 5 teams. Let's put it that way.
Right. So anyway, I think Colgate basically, if you followed them last year when they were somehow net ranking top 10 at one point, and they only played Patriot League teams, they kind of beat up on their conference, and then they lost to Arkansas in the first round of the NCAA tournament. They were a 14 seed, but even going back a couple years ago, remember they gave Tennessee a scare, I believe, when they were a 14 seed that year as well, maybe a 15. And Jordan Burns was on both of those teams. You don't have Jordan Burns, but like you said, Tucker Richardson is back. Jack Ferguson is back. A lot of shooters are back. And that's the thing with Colgate. If we had to summarize them in one word or sort of just identify them, it's offense, it's shooters. That's really what they do. And they pass it pretty well as well. So it's going to be a good test for the zone in that regard.
Yeah, how about Nelly Cummings, too? He's shooting 61% from three right now. And it's not like he's taken 6 shots. He's taken 18 of them. So it's a pretty sizable sample size there at this point in the season, only 4 games in. But yeah, I look at this Colgate team. They also have some size to them, too, up front. When you look at guys like Jeff Woodward and Keegan Records, those are some guys that 6'11", 6'10", guys with experience too. That should be a nice little challenge for Syracuse and what they want to do inside as well. But there certainly are some matchups that they can exploit. I'd imagine this is a game that we could see guys like Cole Swider and even Benny Williams have a lot of success in, because they are some of those bigger wings that can spell trouble for you, because at the end of the day, you're not gonna find many players in the mid-major ranks that can hang with 6'8", 6'9" guys. And I'll throw Jimmy Boeheim into the mix as well, of guys who can really thrive in this game. You're not going to find many mid-majors with 6'8", 6'9" guys that can battle with you on the wing. And this is another one of those examples. So you can definitely see Cole Swider get some of those shots up over the top of guys. Even someone like Buddy Boeheim gets shots up over the top of guys.
Right. Looking at the height disparity here, again, Ken Palm stat, but Syracuse fifth in the country in height. Colgate is 192. That's actually not bad for a mid-major type team out of the Patriot League. I would say they have a little bit more height than maybe a casual fan would expect with the 6'10 records and a 6'11 Jeff Woodward. And records can disrupt some shots back there. He can be a shot blocker for you. He can rebound, but they make their bread and butter shooting the basketball, which is interesting because they did slip up against Cornell the other night. I was pretty surprised by that because they were 10, 11-point favorites I saw on BetOnline.ag, and they just haven't shot the three ball quite as well as they did last year. Now, it's been a small sample size, but they're shooting at 31% from three. That's 207th in the nation. Last year, they were right around the top 10 in three-point percentage pretty much all of last year. So you think water will kind of find its level. Maybe they won't be top 10 good. But like we said, Cummings is shooting at 61%. Really, everyone outside of that has struggled. Tucker Richardson did make a three to tie that NC State game down the stretch. And I think that's something that we should look at. Yes, they lost to Cornell recently, which is surprising. And yes, we beat this team all the time. But also, they did challenge NC State, which says that they are at least a threat somewhat.
Right. And I'm intrigued here because there's a couple of facets of this game that I think Syracuse can sort of exploit. And I think a lot of it is going to be contingent on what happens with the big man fouling situation because Jesse Edwards, and we've talked about this ad nauseum, Jesse Edwards, Frank Anselm, the big man spot in general has struggled with fouls. So that's something that is certainly going to have to pick itself up. You cannot find yourself in foul trouble in this game because, listen, you may have more depth at big man, but at the end of the day, you don't want to find yourself in spots where you are forced to use this sort of smaller lineup. You don't want to be forced into putting Jimmy Boeheim at the 5.
Yeah, I think what's sort of fascinating about these first three games here is they're all pretty similar stylistically. Lafayette, Drexel, Colgate, they've all been three-point oriented shooting teams that are unselfish. They don't turn the basketball over a whole lot, at least when they're going up against their peers in their respective conference. And then they do have like a one or two big guys that are a presence. And most of these first two guys, the Drexel and the Lafayette big guy, have been passing oriented. Keegan Records in particular, he can score down there. I don't know how much he's going to score against Syracuse, but it's like we're progressively getting like up a level in the video game, and it's the same type of game.
Yeah.
It's the same type of style for all these teams. It's just now we play a Colgate team that shoots it probably a little bit better than Drexel. They've got a little bit more experience. They played in a little bit bigger games. Their big guys probably a little bit better, probably a touch more athleticism, and that's why we go from Drexel in the 170s on KenPom to Colgate 124 right now.
By the way, this episode of Locked On Syracuse brought to you by McDonald's, proudly serving communities since 1965. McDonald's has always been more than just a place to get tasty, affordable food. It's an unofficial community center. A big thank you to our friends at McDonald's for always being there. I'm loving it. So I'm looking at with the KenPom matchups here that you bring up, and just like the easing in. I think this is perfect for a team like Syracuse. And you look at how they're getting acclimated right ahead of Atlantis. You kind of brought it up there with the leveling up in the video game right there. This is perfect. This is the absolute perfect way to approach a schedule, I think, especially when you have as many new pieces as Syracuse does. You talked about the minute continuity. We talked about it with Colgate, and we talked about it how there is a pretty large disparity there. And I think that's a good thing for a team that's kind of finding itself. This is obviously going to be a much more solid test. And three-point shooting wise, Colgate's been a pretty good three-point shooting defense so far this season. They're holding their opponents to 24%. Syracuse is shooting 50%. Do I expect Syracuse to shoot 50% from three in this game? No, I don't. But if they can hover around that 40%, maybe high 30% watermark, that's going to be a good sign, I think, for this team. Because We haven't even seen it out of Cole Swider in the regular season yet. But this,
Right.
again, could be one of those games where he thrives.
I'm glad that you brought up the 3-point shooting defense because last year, I think Colgate was 26% 3-point shooting D. And that's usually a red flag if you're an odds maker or someone that really is trying to identify trends here. 3-point shooting typically comes down to luck. Syracuse is kind of an exception because they just force teams to attempt a lot of threes. And even a team like Houston last year, a lot of their principles was to chase teams off the line. But in the case of Colgate, they don't have a lot of length. They don't really have those type of defensive principles. So it is interesting that last year in a small schedule against all Patriot League competition, they got relatively lucky 3-point defense wise. This year so far, their 3-point D looks good again. You have to wonder, is that going to stay that way? How much of it is them just actually buying into that and keeping teams off the 3-point line, and how much of it is luck, which a lot of people will tell you that that is a trend. It's like I saw James Zuba, our buddy, was tweeting free throw defense for
Oh
Syracuse is
my
the worst in the
goodness. It's
country.
absurd. I
Yeah,
mean, teams are shooting
91% teams are
92%.
shooting.
You know what?
Yeah,
People say free throw defense doesn't matter. That might be on the student section. That might be on the
that's
student
true.
section
That
right
is.
there. They're the ones that can bring the noise in that regard. But all right, we will get into a couple more things. What do we want to see out of this Syracuse team? Because again, you should win this game against Colgate, albeit a former tournament team, but you should win this game. So we'll dive into a little bit more of what we want to see out of the Orange. But this episode of Locked on Syracuse is brought to you by McDonald's, proudly serving communities since 1965. McDonald's has always been more than just a place to get tasty, affordable food. It's a place where friends and family can come to reconnect, a place where classmates can meet up for a group studying session, knowing they'll have dependable Wi-Fi and endless supplies of French fries and McFlurries. Win or lose, teammates, competitors, the home team, or the road team can all come together to recharge. It's the place you always look forward to stopping at on a long road trip to rest your legs and refuel. I was coming back home the other day. We made sure to stop by the Golden Arches, recharge
Mhm.
with some McNuggets, a McFlurry. I always go with the buffalo sauce. Love, love, love that
Oh, that
McDonald's
is
buffalo
good.
sauce.
Good call.
And you always got to get yourself some fries as well with that. So head on over to your local McDonald's and refuel and reconnect. McDonald's, I'm loving it. Anything in particular that you're looking at in this game that, you know what, this will feel like a really successful game for Syracuse? Again, we can say, oh, well, do what we've seen Purdue do and go out and beat teams by 35 every single game. You can't do that against every single team. I'm not asking Syracuse to go out and win this game by 30, 35 points, but I look at this game. This is also a game where I know we always say leave no doubt for 40 minutes. I think that's going to be a little bit tougher against a team like Colgate. I think Red Raiders are probably going to hang around for a little bit in this game. So, anything in particular you're looking at that you want to see from Syracuse in this contest?
I would say rebounding, just win the rebounding margin off the Drexel
Mm-hmm.
game. And I think they can do that in this game. And then on top of that, just make sure that the zone rotations look pretty crisp. I'll probably have a keen eye on Benny Williams as well as Jesse Edwards and what they're doing in their development, their progression, because again, we're stepping up a level in competition here. This is an opportunity for Jesse to continue to try and stay out of foul trouble off of last game and
Mm-hmm.
sort of proved that he's heading in the right direction in that regard. I guess we do have Frank Anselm right behind him, who played really well last game as well. So the foul trouble
Yeah.
is not a huge issue if it happens, but you'd like to see him be able to stay out of it against a team like Colgate.
Yeah, this is a Colgate team that isn't great at rebounding either. Even though they do have some size for a mid-major, they're not very good at rebounding the basketball. So I'm with you. I just want to see Syracuse be that same physical team that we kind of saw in the second half. And it starts with the centers too, because I think they're playing with a different level of nasty than what we've seen in the past. If those guys can be physical, be aggressive, be assertive on their end of the floor, I think you'll be in a pretty good spot against this Colgate team. I also just don't want to see the slow start defensively, too. We kind of saw that in the last game against Drexel, where you let them filter the ball in every which way against you, get some good shots off. I don't want to see that. We've seen in the past against the mid majors or even the lower rungs of the ACC where you let them move the ball around a little bit on you and then take some threes, some open threes, make some threes, and before you know it, they've hit 7 threes in the first half against you. I don't want to see that. I want to see a team that's more disciplined defensively in the first half, so you're not scrambling to make all these second half adjustments. in that locker room when you do hit the 20-minute mark. So I want to see you get out to a fast start in this game, because I think that would be a really good sign for everyone on this team and really build some confidence right before Atlantis.
Exactly. I would expect Colgate to hang around like Drexel did. And I think if it's a close game at the half, no one should be awfully worried. But at the same time, like you said, a slow start again, Colgate's a team that could beat you. I think Drexel, I
Yeah.
guess, could have beat you too. But Colgate has been in big games. If Colgate starts getting hot from three, I'm getting a little bit more worried than I even was against the Dragons. I didn't feel all that worried at the half against Drexel. If Colgate's up by 6-7 at the half, then it's actually time to panic, because this is a team that can win that type of game, I think.
Right. I don't think I would quite panic at 6 or
Yeah, maybe that's
7, just
harsh, but
because I think the adjustments that Boeheim has made at halftimes historically have been pretty good against mid-major schools. I would just say this, for it to be a really successful first half in my mind, and I think that's where this game ultimately could be won and lost too. I would really, really, really like to see Syracuse go out and lead this game by like 6 to 8 points at the half. I think that'd be a really strong sign.
right. Cornell did it, or at least Cornell was up by a little at the half and then put the gas on in the second half. So we should be able to do it. We have beat this team like 55 straight times or something. It's
Yeah.
just, this is probably a little bit better iteration of that team than we've seen in a couple years, which is good for Colgate. They've really put together a nice program.
Yeah, and let's be honest, okay? Colgate being good is good for Syracuse. Because that is a team that you play pretty much every single season. I would say the same thing about St. Bonaventure too. The state of upstate New York and central New York and western New York basketball being good, when you look at teams like Buffalo, St. Bonaventure, and Colgate and Cornell, when those teams are good, it's good for Syracuse too, because those are teams that you'll probably see 2 or 3 of them on your non-conference schedule. So if they're on your schedule every single year, that's a quality non-conference game for you in the books that you could have on your resume when it's all said and done. So it's a good thing when those teams are good for Syracuse. Um, let's dive into the prop shop here. Or do we have to? Because looking at what we did last week,
Yeah,
an
gosh.
absolute abomination from both of us. There were winless. We were both winless last week.
Mm-hmm.
0 for 5 across the board. We did get burned on the back door as well
We
by
also
the.
lost the over-under by a point, which I guess we
I
need
didn't even
another
realize.
backdoor layup. But yeah,
All right,
just a
all right.
tight
Well,
spreads. Good job by
geez.
BetOnline.ag.
Yeah, hats off to them. All right. Well, we'll try to do much better this week. You know what they say: when you go 0-5 one week, you're due for a 5-0 the next week. So we'll try to do that here. We'll start with Syracuse and their over under on 3-pointers made. You set the number at 11.5 on this one. Where you leaning on Syracuse and their 3-pointers made?
I'm going to take the under. We talked about how it's sort of odd how good Colgate has been 3-point defense wise. Syracuse, it's just interesting to me because they are shooting 50%, which is the third best mark in the country. But we talked about this. They're not settling for threes, and they're not attempting a ton of threes. And I think against a team like Colgate, the message from the coaching staff is going to be get in the lane, drive, penetrate, start to make plays for others. So I'll take the slight under there. I bet they make 10 threes.
I'm going to go with the slight over here. There we go. We're already guaranteed to not each go 0-5 now.
Perfect.
But I'm going to go with the slight over here just because I think that you're going to see guys like Samir and Joe. They're going to attack the basket, try to draw some of those bigs, and then kick out and try to find Cole Swider or even Jimmy Boeheim. I think this could be a game where Cole Swider gets 4 threes. I really do. And I know he's been cold out of the gate, but this isn't someone that I expect to be cold the entire season. And this could be a favorable matchup. He's probably going to have a guy matched up on him who's 6'5" or 6'6", and when you're 6'9", you're going to be able to get your shot off over someone of that stature. So I'm going to go with the over here. I think Cole Swider is going to have a really, really strong performance here. On the Colgate side, 9.5 is the number we're setting for 3-pointers made. Where are you sitting on 9.5 for Colgate's?
I'll take a slight over on them because if they're down, they will continue to shoot them in the second half. And doesn't necessarily think that doesn't mean that I think this game's going to be close or anything like that. But Drexel wasn't awfully close at the end. Drexel still
Yeah.
made more threes than Syracuse. And it's because the zone bait you into shooting those threes. Colgate already has shooters that are geared up and ready to shoot at all times. They're actually one of the best teams in a spot up shooting manner, according to Synergy, like year in and year out. And that's a lot of what you get against the zone. So I think they're going to make probably 10 threes.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm going to go over here as well. And again, like you said, just because we're taking the over on the total number of threes made doesn't necessarily mean they're going to shoot the lights out of the place, because we have seen teams come in and hit 12 threes, but they'll take 35 of them. And that's not a great shooting percentage from three when you're looking at the raw numbers of it. So I'm with you. I'm going to take the over there. Who's going to lead Syracuse in scoring in this game? Will it be Buddy, who had a fantastic performance against Drexel? He's getting the odds at plus 135. He's the leader in the clubhouse there. Cole Swider plus 185, Joe Girard plus 200, Jimmy Boeheim plus 250, Benny plus 550, Jesse Edwards plus 650, Frank Anselm, Samir Torrance, or someone else. Maybe Patty Casey. Will he lead the team in
How
scoring?
about
You
that
see
FaceTime?
PJ
You see that?
Carlissimo? Yeah.
Yeah.
Not only that, but Boeheim's getting the iPhone finally. Is he going to give the iPhone back? Can we get betonline.ag odds on that one? Is he going to give the
I can't
iPhone
work
back?
this thing. Jimmy, take it away. Like, help me
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
But they're plus 1,000 if you'd like to venture off into that land as well. So where are you sitting here on the leading scorer in this game?
This is going to be a tough one to pick all year. I'm already in my head with this. I feel like we've been on Cole, and I have a feeling you might be going that direction,
The
but
one day we don't pick Cole is the day he does it too.
I
That's
know.
the way it goes.
I'm going to take Buddy. He won it pretty easily last week, and he's plus 135. I feel like if you play this game 10 times, he's going to win it 5 times, 6 times. So I
I would
kind of
say
like those
probably
odds.
more like 7 or 8. Like,
Yeah, so the odds there tell you we should take him. So I'm going to ride with Buddy.
yeah, I'm thinking about tailing you here, but that's no fun. You know what? I've pumped the tires on Cole Swider enough. Let's just roll with Cole Swider
All right.
plus 185. I really do think we're due for one of these games, and I'd love to see it come before they get to Atlantis too. So hopefully this is that game for Swider, because if he's clicking, that'll be a good thing. When we come back, we will get into the spread and total for this game, because this is one of the more narrow spreads that we've seen so far to drop for this game. But first, we're back and better than ever. A new web interface for the start of the basketball season and more props, odds, and lines than ever before. It is betonline.ag, and they remain your number one spot for all the basketball and football action this season. So head on over to their new updated desktop or mobile site to sign up today and receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. All you got to do is punch in the promo code Locked On to receive your bonus. Again, that's promo code Locked On, and you'll get a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. From basketball, football, baseball, postseason, and awards and all that stuff, NHL, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. And what a great gambling week we have ahead of us
Yeah.
between Feast Week, NFL, college football, all that stuff. You got to get in on all the action at betonline.ag. BetOnline, where the game starts.
Also, guys, if you haven't tried a Built Bar by now, I don't really know what you're waiting for. You are truly missing out. They say it's a protein bar, but it does not taste like one. You have to try one of these amazing bars yourself to believe it. Most protein bars, they're chalky, they're waxy, they're just plain hard to chew. A Built Bar is soft. It's covered in 100% real chocolate, and when you bite into it, you know you're eating something different. It's more of an experience and one that you will enjoy. In fact, you'd swear you're eating a candy bar. That's how I feel every time I eat one of these things. And this month only, Built is coming out with new limited time flavors every 3 to 4 days. So check their website often. You don't want to miss out on that. Go to built.com. Use the promo code LOCKED15. It gets you 15% off your order. Again, the promo code is LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com.
Diving into the spread, or I guess for today, we'll do the potential spread, because betonline.ag does not have a line out yet. So we head over to our trusty friends over at KenPom to give you a projection on this one. KenPom has it sized up as an 80-68 victory for Syracuse. So that suggests a spread of about 12. We'll roll with that number for this game here. 12. That feels right, doesn't it? Where are you sitting on a number of 12 in this game?
Yeah, it does feel right. It feels like Colgate could lose by 25, given how they looked against Cornell. That was kind of surprising and gives me a lot more optimism that Syracuse can take this game. But at the same time, before that Cornell game, I was definitely leaning more towards this will be kind of a dogfight. And Colgate's a big time team that has played in some bigger games. And I think they will keep it tight. So I'll take Colgate to be a little inside that number if I had to project. And I think there's some potential that we get a game similar to Drexel where Colgate might be up at the half. Colgate might be within a couple possessions at the half. Syracuse probably goes on a run at the start of the second half.
Yeah.
And then from that point on, it's kind of in hand, but Colgate still hovers around, makes some threes late, and could backdoor their way to that number as well.
Yeah, it feels like the proper number because I could see things within 4 points at the half, but then you see Syracuse go out and just go off and running to start the second half and maybe start the second half on like a 12-2 run or something like that and really start to separate. But like you mentioned, that backdoor possibility is always there. And you got to remember for Colgate too, this is their biggest regular season game of the year. When you look at it, I mean, you look at everyone else that they face. This is Syracuse. You're going to the Dome. This is one of the premier venues that you're going to play in all season long.
And they haven't
So
been there,
they haven't
like they
been there
didn't
in
get
2
there
years
last
now.
year,
Yeah.
which is weird. So
So it's been a while. This is, and again, you've probably grown up playing against some of these guys too. So a lot of Northeastern kids on both of these teams. So there are rivalries that run a little bit deeper. So I'm with you. I'm going to take Colgate to kind of hang inside that 12. Doesn't mean I won't feel confident or feel good about how Syracuse played in this game. I think both can be true. So I will take that. And then as for the projected Ken Palm total of 148, where are you going on that one?
I'll take the over there because I do feel like both these teams like to get out. They like to shoot the basketball. I wouldn't say they play quick. Colgate does probably like to play quick, but the problem is here, like any team going against a 2-3 zone, you can only play so quick. So
Yeah.
the zone does slow things down. They're not going to turn it over a ton, so there's not going to be a lot of fast break points. So I'm saying all these points that maybe don't lean towards the over, but I do think there's some potential that we have like a 40 to 38 score at the half because both teams, if they do get hot from three, can start making them. And I don't know. I look back at the history of these games. They're usually kind of right around that 80 for Syracuse, 60 for Colgate, maybe sometimes even lower in the 50s typically. But I think this is a type of year where Colgate's a little bit better on offense than they have been, and Syracuse is a little bit better on offense than they usually are in this series.
Yeah, neither of these teams are fantastic defensively. We've documented Syracuse's struggles. Right now, Colgate ranked 191st on Ken Palm. I'm going to roll with the over as well here. I think this could certainly be one of those games where you see the offenses really kind of shine, and we could see a 3-point barrage too. So even though Syracuse is going up against a very tough Colgate 3-point defense, and even though Colgate has sort of struggled to shoot the lights out, despite the fact that they've been a very good 3-point shooting team the past couple of years, I am going to go with the over here because I think this could be one of those breakout games, I think, offensively for both of these teams. So it would not shock me to see Syracuse find themselves in the 90s in this game either. I really could see that. And then with Colgate on the other side, I think it's one of those games that could be a solid offensive output for them as well. So, all right, that is going to do it for us here on today's Locked On Syracuse podcast. Syracuse and Colgate coming up tomorrow. Oh, by the way, this game is on ACC Network Extra, I believe, and also on ESPN Plus. So if you are an ESPN Plus person, you will be able to get this game easily. If you are not an ESPN Plus person, then you are at the mercy of your
Then
RSNs.
watch football, I guess, unless
I
that
guess,
gets ugly. Yeah.
Yeah. So for Tim, I'm Tyler. We will break down the entire Syracuse weekend, Syracuse football, Syracuse basketball. We'll do all of that with you guys on Monday.